Let's be honest, there is a quiet discomfort most men carry, a feeling that no one ever explained the rules clearly, that somewhere along the way you were handed a script that didn't match the reality you're living now. You did what you were told. Be kind, be consistent, be available. And yet, the outcomes feel confusing, sometimes even unfair. This isn't because you're broken, it's because there are truths about women, about attraction, and about emotional dynamics that are rarely spoken out loud, especially to men who are genuinely trying to grow. Here is the first truth you were never supposed to hear. Women don't respond to what you say you are, they respond to what they feel when they're around you. This isn't manipulation. It's psychology. A woman can hear 1,000 perfect words and feel nothing. She can hear very little and feel everything. Men are taught to communicate value verbally, logically, directly. Women are wired to experience value emotionally, energetically, intuitively. That difference alone creates most of the confusion you've felt. You may think consistency means texting every day, checking in, proving reliability. To many women, consistency is emotional. It's the consistency of how you make them feel when you enter the room. Calm, safe, grounded, or tense, anxious, needing approval. She feels that long before she processes your intentions. This is why good intentions don't always translate into attraction. Another uncomfortable truth is that attraction is not created by sacrifice. Men are often praised for selflessness, for giving more, for bending themselves smaller to keep peace. But desire doesn't grow where a man abandons himself. When you over-explain, over-give, or over-accommodate, the emotional signal you send is not love, it's uncertainty. And uncertainty doesn't feel safe or exciting. Women don't consciously think this way. This isn't a plan or a strategy, it's instinctive. The same way you can walk into a room and instantly sense confidence or insecurity in another man without analyzing it, women sense emotional leadership. They notice whether you trust yourself, whether your mood depends on their approval, whether you have a center that doesn't move every time the emotional weather changes. This is why being nice alone has never been enough. Kindness is powerful, but only when it's anchored to self-respect. Without that anchor, kindness becomes currency, something you're unconsciously hoping to trade for affection. Women feel that trade, and it quietly changes how they see you. Here is what most men never hear. You are not here to convince a woman to choose you. You are here to be someone who is chosen naturally. That shift changes everything. When you stop performing and start standing firmly in who you are, something changes in the air. She feels it before she understands it. One of the most shocking truths men never hear is that emotional safety matters more to women than perfection ever will. Not perfection in looks, not perfection in money, not perfection in words. Emotional safety. And this is where many men misunderstand female psychology completely. They think safety means predictability, availability, always agreeing, never causing discomfort. In reality, safety comes from emotional stability, not emotional surrender. A woman feels safest with a man who is grounded in himself. A man who doesn't collapse when she's distant, who doesn't panic when her mood shifts, who doesn't chase reassurance every time the energy changes. That steadiness sends a powerful signal. It tells her that you are not here to be rescued by her attention. You are here because you choose to be. Here's the uncomfortable part. Many men believe showing vulnerability means exposing every insecurity immediately, sharing every fear, laying their emotional weight at her feet. Vulnerability is important, but timing and containment matter. Women don't want to become your emotional caretaker. When vulnerability turns into emotional dependency, attraction quietly fades. She may still care, she may still be kind, but desire doesn't grow in a space where she feels responsible for regulating your emotions. Another truth few men hear is this: women are not testing you to be cruel. They test to understand where your boundaries are. When she disagrees, pulls back, challenges you, or questions you, she's often watching how you respond under pressure. Do you stay calm, or do you over-explain? Do you stand your ground respectfully, or do you fold to keep approval? These moments are less about winning and more about emotional leadership. This is why confidence isn't loud, it's quiet. A confident man doesn't need to prove himself right. He doesn't need to win every argument. He knows who he is, and that certainty shows up in his tone, his posture, his pacing. Women feel that certainty as safety, not because it dominates them, but because it anchors them. Another shocking reality is that women often fall in love with how they feel about themselves around you. If being with you makes her feel calm, desired without pressure, respected without being pedestalized, and emotionally seen without being smothered, her attachment deepens naturally. If being with you makes her feel anxious, responsible, or constantly reassured, her attraction struggles to breathe. Men are taught to escalate through effort, more texting, more planning, more explaining. Female psychology responds better to presence, being fully there when you are there, being purposeful when you speak, leaving space instead of filling every silence with words. Space allows feelings to grow. Pressure suffocates them. And here's a truth that can sting. Women don't leave relationships because men care too much. They leave because men lose themselves while caring. When your world shrinks to revolve around one person, you unconsciously signal scarcity. Scarcity doesn't feel safe. It feels heavy. You were never meant to disappear inside someone else's life. You were meant to invite her into a full one. One of the most misunderstood facts about women is that attraction and logic live in completely different parts of the mind. Men are trained to solve problems. If something feels off, you explain it. If there's tension, you talk it out. If there's distance, you close the gap with words. But here's the shocking truth. Women don't feel closer through explanations. They feel closer through emotional experience. This is why long messages rarely fix emotional distance. You may explain your intentions perfectly and still feel her pulling away. That's not because she didn't understand you. It's because understanding doesn't equal feeling. A woman can intellectually agree with you and emotionally disconnect at the same time, and most men don't realize this is happening until it's too late. Another truth you were never told is that mystery is not about being secretive. It's about having depth that isn't immediately accessible. When a man reveals everything at once, every thought, every fear, every plan, there's nothing left for emotional discovery. Women bond through layers, through moments that unfold over time. When everything is exposed too quickly, the emotional journey ends before it begins. This doesn't mean playing games or withholding affection. It means pacing, letting connection grow instead of forcing it to bloom overnight. Women are drawn to men who allow emotion to breathe, men who don't rush intimacy to calm their own anxiety. When you slow down, you create space for curiosity. Curiosity fuels attraction far more than reassurance ever will. Here's something else few men hear. Women are highly sensitive to incongruence. If your words say confidence but your energy says fear of loss, she notices. If you say you're fine but act tense, she feels the tension. Women trust what they sense more than what they're told. This is why self-work matters more than lines, tactics, or scripts. You cannot fake emotional alignment for long. Another shocking fact is that women don't fall for potential the way men think they do. They fall for patterns, not promises, not future plans. Patterns of how you handle stress, how you respond to disagreement, how you treat people when there's nothing to gain. Consistency in behavior builds trust far more than grand gestures ever could. Men are often surprised when a woman leaves after nothing went wrong. But something did go wrong. The emotional pattern no longer felt safe or inspiring. Maybe you became reactive. Maybe you stopped leading your own life. Maybe you started seeking validation instead of offering presence. These shifts are subtle, but women feel them deeply. Another truth that challenges most men is this: desire grows in polarity, not imbalance, not disrespect, but polarity. Masculine and feminine energy responding to each other. When a man is decisive, calm, and self-directed, it allows a woman to relax into her emotions. When a man becomes emotionally chaotic, constantly seeking reassurance, polarity collapses. And without polarity, attraction fades. You don't need to be dominant. You need to be centered. You don't need to be distant. You need to be whole. Women aren't looking for someone to complete them. They're drawn to someone who is already complete and chooses connection, not dependence. One of the most shocking realities about women is that respect comes before love, and without it, love cannot survive. Men are taught that love is built through effort, sacrifice, and loyalty. While those things matter, they mean very little if respect erodes. And respect, in female psychology, is not about fear or dominance. It's about self-respect made visible. A woman respects a man who honors his own boundaries. When you say yes while feeling resentment, when you tolerate behavior that quietly hurts you, when you silence your needs to avoid conflict, something changes in how she sees you. She may not articulate it, but the emotional signal is clear. You are not valuing yourself. And if you don't value yourself, it becomes difficult for her to maintain deep respect. Another truth men rarely hear is that conflict itself doesn't damage attraction. Avoidance does. When you avoid expressing your truth calmly and directly, tension leaks out in passive ways. Tone changes, energy shifts, emotional distance grows. Women are deeply attuned to this undercurrent. They feel when something is being swallowed instead of spoken. Respect grows when you can disagree without withdrawing love, when you can say no without anger, when you can stand firm without punishing. This emotional maturity is rare, and that rarity makes it incredibly attractive. It shows that your sense of self is not fragile, and that disagreement doesn't threaten your identity. Here's something that surprises many men. Women often lose attraction when they feel emotionally superior. If she becomes the one teaching you how to feel, how to react, how to manage life, polarity disappears. She may still care for you, but the dynamic shifts into something more parental than romantic. Desire struggles to survive there. This doesn't mean you can't learn from a woman. It means you take responsibility for your own growth. You process your emotions. You seek wisdom. You build your life. When you bring that wholeness into a relationship, respect flows naturally. When you outsource your stability, respect quietly drains away. Another uncomfortable truth is that women are watching how you handle power. Not power over them, but power over yourself. Do you control your impulses? Do you speak with intention? Do you react emotionally to every challenge, or do you choose your responses? Self-mastery is deeply attractive because it signals long-term safety. Men often think being easygoing means having no standards. But women feel safer with men who have standards and enforce them calmly. Standards communicate clarity. Clarity communicates strength. Strength, when paired with kindness, creates deep trust. And here is a truth that can change everything. Women don't want to feel like the most important thing in your life. They want to feel chosen by a man who already has a meaningful life. When she is your only source of purpose, pressure builds. When she is a valued part of a larger mission, attraction deepens. You were never meant to shrink your world for love. Love is meant to expand your world, not replace it. One of the most unsettling truths men rarely hear is that women remember emotional patterns more than events. You could go on an incredible date, plan the perfect surprise, and say all the right words. But if your energy showed anxiety, neediness, or inconsistency at any point, she remembers that feeling long after the details fade. This is why men are often left wondering, I did everything right. Why did it fall apart? The answer lies not in what you did, but in how you made her feel. Here's a truth that cuts deeper. Women notice emotional courage before anything else. When tension arises, do you face it calmly, or do you shrink, justify, or beg? Emotional courage isn't about grand gestures. It's about small, consistent demonstrations that you can handle life, your emotions, and relationship dynamics without losing yourself. That consistency builds subconscious trust, and trust is the soil in which attraction thrives. Another shocking reality is that women are deeply responsive to contrast, to polarity, not drama, not manipulation. Contrast between your grounded confidence and her emotional fluidity creates magnetism. When you are steady, decisive, and unshakable in your presence, she feels free to be vulnerable, expressive, even playful. When you mirror her anxiety or overreact to every mood swing, the emotional pull collapses, even if your intentions are pure. Men often think that sharing everything creates connection. In truth, selective vulnerability, shared over time, builds intrigue and emotional layering. Women crave discovery. They want to unravel the man they are with, not read him like an open book in one night. Every layer reveals depth, security, and a sense of mystery that fuels desire. Reveal too much too fast, and the journey disappears. Here's another hard truth. Women are instinctively tuned to energy more than words. You can give the perfect rational argument for why she should trust or love you and still fall flat if your energy communicates insecurity. Energy communicates authenticity, confidence, safety. Attraction isn't won through logic, it's felt in the body. This is why pickup lines, rehearsed speeches, or calculated gestures rarely work long-term. Women are unconsciously scanning for congruence between how you speak, how you act, and how you carry yourself. Another point few men ever grasp: desire often grows when a man invests in himself first. Not as a strategy, but as a lifestyle. Hobbies, purpose, goals, social influence, emotional mastery, all of these show a woman that you are abundant, not needy. A man who is whole and full is magnetic because he doesn't need her to complete him. Neediness repels, presence attracts. And here's a reality that changes everything. Attraction and attachment are not the same. She can be attached without being attracted, or attracted without attachment. Men often confuse the two, believing consistency or effort alone will ensure both. In truth, attachment comes from routine and security, but attraction comes from emotional leadership, confidence, and the ability to create a compelling presence that she feels rather than analyzes. The final truth most men never hear is that women are deeply influenced by subconscious patterns far before any conscious decision is made. Attraction is not a checklist. It is an intricate emotional algorithm running silently in her mind, shaped by past experiences, instincts, and subtle energy cues you might not even notice. You can follow every dating rule and still fall short if your emotional patterns don't align with hers at a subconscious level. Here's the harsh reality. Women notice emotional leadership more than any tangible proof of success. A man who can remain calm when life feels chaotic, who makes decisions with clarity even under pressure, and who maintains self-respect when challenged, communicates something profoundly magnetic. He communicates that life with him will feel secure, exciting, and alive. Conversely, a man who constantly seeks validation, hesitates, or over-explains signals instability, no matter how impressive his words or accomplishments may be. Another truth men rarely hear is that women process emotional intimacy differently. They often need to feel understood and emotionally mirrored before desire deepens. This isn't manipulation, it's biology. When she senses that you recognize her emotions, accept them, and maintain your own centered state, she subconsciously feels safety and excitement simultaneously. That combination fuels desire in a way words alone never can. Men also underestimate the power of selective presence. You don't need to be omnipresent in her life to be magnetic. Being fully engaged when you are present and maintaining your own life and purpose when you're not creates a balance that women instinctively recognize as masculine strength. Overavailability often diminishes attraction. Presence, tempered with self-mastery, amplifies it. Here's a truth that will feel uncomfortable. Women often test boundaries, not to punish, but to measure emotional consistency. When she pulls back, challenges, or even teases, she's observing how you respond. Do you remain grounded, calm, and self-directed, or do you react, chase, and negotiate for her attention? Your reactions are more important than your explanations. Patterns of response create emotional chemistry that words cannot manufacture. Another shocking reality is that desire thrives on polarity, not predictability. You cannot manufacture polarity with scripts or techniques. You cultivate it by being emotionally whole, confident, and purpose-driven, while remaining attuned to her energy without needing to control it. Polarity creates tension, excitement, and longing, the elements that make a woman emotionally invest and sustain interest. Finally, here is a truth most men avoid facing. You cannot control a woman's feelings, but you can influence the emotional environment. You cannot force attraction, but you can cultivate presence, self-respect, and emotional leadership that naturally draws her in. The difference between longing and disconnection often comes down to the emotional space you hold, not what you do or say. So here's your personal challenge. In your relationships, were you shaping attraction through presence and emotional consistency, or through effort and explanation? Solve this equation in the comments honestly. If this opened your eyes, like the video, subscribe for more truths, and share this with a friend who needs to hear the unspoken rules of attraction.